it'll be fun to see Dylan Gabriel get the start. I think he looks all right when he's come in. But obviously, those are garbage time end of games. So, yeah, look, I think for the Browns, it's not working with Joe Flacco. He's 40 years old. So I think it's time to at least see what you've got in at least one of the two rookies, right? You've spent 2 draft picks on rookie quarterbacks. You might as well see what you've got in them, especially when it looks like your season's kind of going nowhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really not surprised that it's happened, and I think it adds a nice little element for this for the UK game.
Minnesota right now has double the negative EPA per pass than the Chargers in second place. So they were twice as good as the second best defense in the pass defense in the NFL. And going up against a rookie quarterback, Flores has got to be rubbing his hands of excitement, hasn't he? Should they win at home to Denver on Sunday, they will become the first team since 2009, the Colts, in 2009, begin the season 5-0 3 times in a 4-year span, which is just crazy. Nick Sirianni can also become the second coach ever to begin 5-0 in 3 of his first 5 seasons, which is crazy because they haven't even been that convincing, Philadelphia. They could easily be 1-3 right now.
Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
The NFL International Series continues this week, with the NFL returning to the UK this Sunday after a very successful first game in Dublin last week. You're listening to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, and I'm your host, Sam Mawson. In this week's episode, I'll be looking ahead to what I think is the 40th NFL game to be played in London, where the Vikings will face the Browns at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And joining me to do that will be a regular guest on the podcast over the last couple of seasons. He's a senior US sports writer for The Mirror and The Express, the author of The Special Relationship, The History of American Football in the United Kingdom as well. Welcome back to the podcast, Andrew Gamble. Great to have you on, mate.
Oh man, always love the intro. Thanks for always love coming on the show. So thanks for having me back. Look, we're in the full swing of the NFL season now. The international games are here already, which is kind of nuts. Or at least the European international games. I mean, Brazil is right off the bat, but yeah, awesome. It's a really exciting time of the season. I think October might be the best month for sports in the year. I think that was there must be a debate around that at some point, but yeah, it's a good time to be an American sports fan for sure, and an NFL fan.
Yeah, it's the eclipse month, isn't it? It's the month where every major sport is played at the same time. Yeah, so it's perfect for that. And yeah, well, we're going to be talking all things London games today. We'll look at the 12 teams with a winning record as well. We'll debate which of the 12 are in the best position to sort of contend for a Super Bowl, and which of the 12 are kind of pretenders, you could say. And then we'll have lots of discussion about the games this week as well. We'll go ahead to predict them. And I heard you on pre-season, Andrew, and this is your first time on since the season started. Can you believe it's week 5 already?
No, I mean, yeah, I feel like it always goes so quickly. The off season goes so slowly. You get so excited, then you blink and you miss it, and it kind of just flies past. It is kind of crazy to say that we're in week 5. I mean, what's that? Nearly a third of the way through the season. Yeah, unbelievable. Cool to see kind of some storylines play out already. Obviously great to tune in every week, but yeah, it is ridiculous that it's weird to think that the UK games are actually here now. It feels like the season's just started, and obviously that's quite a big banner, I guess, but especially for UK followers of the NFL, it's a big kind of milestone of the season, and for that to have already come around, is pretty insane.
Yeah, obviously you're not in the UK at the moment, of course. You're in New York. You're at the Ryder Cup last week. How was that?
That was fantastic. I mean, yeah, like I was telling you before the show, I mean, it's always good to see Europe get the win. Even though I live here, but it was good to see Europe get the win. It was kind of cool, bit scary on the Sunday, but I think it was never really in doubt. It was nice that Shane Lowry got his moment. And yeah, the weather was beautiful. The atmosphere on the Sunday particularly was amazing. So yeah, it was a great time, man. Great time. It was weird because then it was like one of those weekends where I'm not really following the NFL, so it feels like I was catching up with everything on Sunday night and Monday morning, and then it was just feels like that's a week that slipped out of my hands already. So it's like, it's like a 17-week season for me now. So it's brutal. But we're happy to get back into it.
Awesome. Right, before we start today's podcast, I just wanted to remind all of you that the podcast is brought to you by Fantasy Gameday this season, the UK's dedicated daily fantasy app. If you're new to the app, you can actually get a free £7.50 bet when you sign up with the code FULL10. That's FULL10. You'll get a free entry after you deposit and enter your first lineup on the app. Just remember to please gamble responsibly and only if you're 18 or over and based in the UK and Northern Ireland. Okay, we'll begin the episode by looking ahead towards Sunday's London game between the Vikings and the Browns, where Minnesota will become the first team to play consecutive international games in 2 different cities, flying over the Irish Sea to London this week after playing in the first ever Dublin game last Sunday. And in that game, Minnesota lost their 100% record in international games. They won their first 4 trips to London, including last season against the Jets, and a game at Twickenham in 2017, actually against the Browns. This is a London game repeat, you could say. This will be Cleveland's first international game since that loss in 2017. Since then, 28 teams have played a game overseas, with Minnesota playing abroad 3 times in that span as well. So it's been a long time since we've seen Cleveland overseas. And the only teams that have not played internationally since that time are the Cowboys, Lions, and the Commanders. And obviously the Commanders will play the Dolphins in Madrid in November as well. And then it won't be long before Dallas and Detroit play abroad as well, because they're required to host an international game every 8 seasons. And we're about halfway through that list as well. So in the next couple of seasons, we should see those 2 teams host a game abroad as well. And then, Roger Goodell said in Dublin last week that it won't be long before every team plays an international game every season, likely as part of like an 18th game on the schedule. And the game on Sunday was the second most watched international game in NFL Network history as well. I mean, what an astronomical rise the game has seen internationally, just in recent years especially.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think Ireland in particular, I feel like it's maybe not long overdue, but it's been one of those places I think everyone's had kind of circled on the NFL's world map, right? Of the sites that's going to be kind of next in line for a game. So I think for that, and especially with their roots to the Steelers and stuff like that, I think it's awesome that the Steelers were there for the game and got the win as well. The atmosphere looked amazing. It's just really cool to see it constantly expanding. We've got the Madrid game as well later this year. We've got Australia next year. It's absolutely wild. So it's just awesome. Like the game is really reaching, and the league is reaching kind of all corners of the globe. I think it'll be. I mean, it's just Africa right now and Asia that are missing games. I mean, that's almost every continent now. So it's kind of crazy that we've reached this point. But I mean, also it's kind of like the natural evolution of the league in the game, especially with the plan that I think the NFL have had. Long term, certainly from the start of the international series with London in 2007. So, yeah, I guess they're kind of sticking to plan, and it's cool that we're reaching this point now where it's all really accelerating. The Dublin game looked like a massive success. So, really, really awesome for the league to go there and for that game to be as exciting as it was as well.
Yeah, so this is the first of 3 games in London over the next 3 weeks. As always, the first 2 we played at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, before the Jags return to the UK home of Wembley Stadium to host the Rams in the 3rd week. I'll be there on Sunday, so if you do spot me around the ground or anything, just feel free to say hello. It's nice interacting with all you guys. And we'll get into the game now, and we'll go through some talking points. And perhaps the biggest one, obviously, is the Browns quarterback situation, because Joe Flacco has been benched. 3rd-round rookie Dylan Gabriel will make his first NFL start against the Vikings on Sunday, after coming in to finish the game in the blowout losses to the Ravens and then the Lions last week. And he'll become the Browns' 41st starting quarterback since 1999. That's 11 more than any other team. And I saw a great stat in The Guardian that Gabriel will actually become the 5th different starting quarterback for Cleveland in the last 10 games. That's 5 quarterbacks in 10 games. Flacco is, of course, one of them. Can you ever go naming the other 3?
Who did they have? I mean, it would have been Deshaun Watson would have been last season as well. God, who else did they have on the center last year?
There are 3 more that one of them had a really big game on Monday Night Football. Don't know if that helps.
I'm trying to think. The Browns, man. I didn't realize they had 5 in the last 2 seasons.
But if you include Deshaun, it's 6. It's just...
Oh my God! Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Who replaced Deshaun last year? I'm trying to think. Was it It wasn't Kenny. Was it Kenny Pickett?
No.
No.
He likes to eat dubs.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jameis. Did they have DTR?
Yeah, he's one of them as well. I don't think you'll get the other one because I forgot that he started the game for the Browns, to be honest with you.
I think I've got it. You know, I think
Go on, another go.
Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, Bailey's up here.
That is insane. That is insane. No, 'cause
Yeah.
I remember they had that crazy quarterback room last season. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. And now, obviously, yeah. So if you, yeah, so you, fifth in 10 games, sixth quarterback in 2 seasons. What do you make of the decision to go for Gabriel going into this game?
I think it was a matter of, I mean, you looked at the schedule. I think we talked about it on kind of heading into the season. You looked at the schedule. It looked like it was going to be a matter of when, not if, that they were going to replace Joe Flacco, unless he played really well, you know, and did that kind of playoff run that he did in 2023. That hasn't happened. He has struggled immensely. You know, that offense has been tough to watch at times. I mean, they've played some tough teams, to be fair, but the schedule is difficult. So
the worst schedule in the NFL for 4 weeks.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know how they won that game against Green Bay. That shows the strength of their defense rather than the strength of the offense and the special teams, to be fair, because they got the block field goal, of course. But yeah, I think it was a matter of if not when, not if, in terms of who they were going to replace with. Dylan Gabriel being selected earlier than should obviously kind of means that he's next in line, I guess. Like, as long, you know, if they're both stay on that trajectory, you'd imagine Dylan Gabriel would get the opportunity first. Yeah, look, it'll be fun to see Dylan Gabriel get the start. I think he looks all right when he's come in. But obviously, you know, those are garbage time end of games. So, yeah, look, I think for the Browns, it's not working with Joe Flacco. He's 40 years old. So I think it's time to at least see what you've got in at least one of the 2 rookies, right? You've spent 2 draft picks on rookie quarterbacks. You might as well see what you've got in them, especially when it looks like your season's kind of going nowhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really not surprised that it's happened, and I think it adds a nice little element for this for the UK game.
Yeah, it does. I agree with you. I think it was more when, not if. But this game for me is a bit odd because you're going up against a defense that is the league's #1 defense in terms of EPA. It's, you know, this is just baffling to me because Brian Flores is known as a bit of like a young quarterback killer. There's only one rookie quarterback that's ever beaten Brian Flores' defense. And it, you know, with all the different looks and the different disguises, you know, he's put out there, I just like that's confusing for me. But with the future of the Browns and the fact that, you know, they've got the 2 first-round picks next year, they need to see what they have in these guys, otherwise they will select another quarterback next year. It makes absolute sense. But yeah, I mean, Brian Flores he has to be really excited because, you know, Minnesota right now has double the negative EPA per pass than the Chargers in second place. So they were twice as good as the second best defense in the pass defense in the NFL. And, you know, going up against a rookie quarterback, Flores has got to be rubbing his hands of excitement, hasn't he?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the Browns as well. Like, you don't exactly look at their offense and think that they're stacked with weapons for Gabriel to even throw to. So, and the Vikings as defense, like you said, have been balling out. I think Isaiah Rodgers is like the highest graded player in the secondary in the league this season, which is, you know, I don't think what people thought when he signed with Minnesota in the summer, but he's had a great start to life there. Look, I think the Vikings defense, like we said actually earlier in the first podcast of the season, the moves they made in the offseason to bolster that defense we've seen that kind of pay dividends because, you know, their offense has struggled. You know, we saw JJ McCarthy struggle a little bit, get injured. Carson Wentz came in. I mean, looked pretty good in that first game, but, you know, backup quarterbacks, you never know really what you're going to get, unfortunately. As talented as guys like Carson Wentz are, you know, the NFL is a brutal place. So, yeah, look, I think for their defense to be this strong, I think is really promising for Vikings. I think it's definitely scary for Cleveland. But I agree with you. It's an odd time maybe to bring him in. But I mean, they've got the Pittsburgh next week. So unless they want to roll out, you know, Flacco for the next 2 weeks, you'd be looking at that Dolphins game maybe and saying that would have been maybe the opportune time. But if it's not working, like, you might, I guess you could just go to it, you know, right now, kind of just see what you've got in the rookie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're having this conversation you have like a big group chat of everyone from the network in it, and Josh, who hosts the Believe in Brits podcast, Cleveland Brown podcast on our network, he thinks this is going to be a big Quinton Judkins game. Of course, he had his first game with over 100 scrimmage yards last week, and He's in for his third game in a row of at least 95 yards and a touchdown, which great for a rookie. And it makes sense as well because you run the ball with that defense as well. The defense they've got to bring a little bit of confidence that they can make it a close one because you look at what happened last week in Dublin. Pittsburgh sacked Carson Wentz 6 times, and Wentz was the most precious quarterback in the league last week as well. And then Minnesota lost 3 offensive linemen in that game as well. None of the 3 that did go out, Brian O'Neill, Brian Kelly, and Donovan Jackson, have practiced yet so far this week. Christian Darrisaw, their left tackle, hasn't practiced this week, but he sounds like he'll be fine. It's just more of a rest thing. But their offensive line is banged up at the moment, and it does sound like it'll be Wentz again because J.J. McCarthy didn't practice for a second straight day. They were hoping that he would practice in some capacity this week, but it sounds like we're heading for a third straight week with Carson Wentz at quarterback. And with this Browns defense and a banged up offensive line, and the way that McCarthy struggled in sort of 6 out of the 8 quarters he played, do you think it's wise that Wentz starts in the first place anyway?
I think you want to. If JJ's ready, I think you want to, or if he's healthy, I think you want to put him out on the field. But I think, I think that first game against Chicago, right? Like he was pretty. I don't want to say bad for 3 quarters, but he was definitely shook. Like it was Sunday night football, Monday night football, and so prime time. Making your NFL debut. Bears have a solid defense. They can be, obviously that's first game of the season. You never know what's coming. I think those first 3 quarters, look, he was still finding his feet a little bit. That last quarter was really encouraging. So that's obviously why they took out. And then the Atlanta game comes out of that with the injury. The performance is what it is, but I think. He had his like child, I think, during that week as well. So he was obviously practicing a little bit less, maybe studying a little bit less, certainly getting less sleep. So look, I think Minnesota will want to. I imagine they'll hope that is kind of a one-off as the week 2, given the things that were happening to JJ off the field, and he coming out of that game with an injury. So I think they'll want to put him back in when he's healthy, and again, just kind of keep rolling with him. But that's why you have a good backup like Carson Wentz, like a reliable guy who, he's been around the league. I think he's played for 6 different teams in 6 seasons now. But he's a guy who's been everything from an MVP contender to a backup. So I think he's a reliable guy to have under center who can certainly get you wins on any given Sunday. So I think then Minnesota aren't in a rush to get JJ back. I think if he had practiced this week more and was feeling himself a little bit more, then I think they'd be more inclined to give him the start. But I don't think they see any reason necessarily to rush him back.
You got the bye coming up as well. So
exactly.
Perfect. Perfect time. And going into the this last game before that with Wentz, it's not. I said this last week as well. I think it's not necessarily a bad thing at all. Like Kevin O'Connell was pretty good at getting efficiency out of any quarterback, and Wentz has his tools. Obviously, again he played pretty well in the first game. Last week he was all right, but again the pressure just got to him a lot. But then he was the most pressured quarterback, so you kind of expect that. But certainly had no problem finding Justin Jefferson. They connected 10 times. He passed for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns, even with the pressure. He also had that 81-yard pass to Jordan Addison, who is his first game back from suspension last week as well. That was the longest play from scrimmage in international game history as well. And then even without Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason's been playing well. He's got one of the best supporting casts in the league as well. And because of that, the Vikings are 3.5-point favorites going into this game because they're just loaded. Even with a backup quarterback in there. That spread sounds about right. Which way are you going for this game?
I think it does sound about right. I'll go Minnesota to do it and to cover as well. I think they'll get the win. I think the way I look at it is both teams have good defenses. Cleveland, for all the talk you can give them about their offense, their defense is still very good. They have some really good players across the board. Of course, Myles Garrett is the kind of the face of that. Both teams, but I think both teams have that good defensive unit, and then it kind of goes down to the offenses. And I think the Carson Wentz offense with all those weapons is at least 3 points better than Dylan Gabriel and the Browns offense. But I guess we'll see on Sunday. Maybe Dylan Gabriel comes out and he looks absolutely unreal. I think I'm leaning Minnesota.
Yeah, I agree with you. If this was Flacco playing in this game, I actually might consider Cleveland to come within 3 because of how good that Browns defense is. But I'm going to go for Minnesota as well. I just think with Gabriel starting, it's probably their game to lose. You're listening to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, and we're really excited to announce that we'll be teaming up with Fantasy Gameday for the podcast this season, which is the very first NFL daily fantasy app made exclusively for us Brits and created by UK fans. To celebrate the partnership, they've given us a special offer to share with you, our audience, where if you sign up with a promo code FULL10, that's FULL10, you'll get a free game credit added to your account when you enter your first lineup. Every week there are dozens of competitions to get involved in, with entry fees starting from just £3, and there are big prizes to be won. If you're like me, you love playing fantasy football and love having someone to root for in Red Zone when your team aren't playing on a Sunday, this app is perfect for you. That's Fantasy Gameday, the only daily fantasy app built for UK NFL fans. And just a quick reminder, please gamble responsibly, and only if you're 18 and over and based in the UK and Northern Ireland. Next up is DFS Stars, which is our weekly daily fantasy segment brought to you by our partners for the podcast, Fantasy Gameday, the UK's dedicated daily fantasy app. Last week was a huge week for us on the podcast, by far the most successful week of picking for me, for you, obviously for your guys' lineups, and I hope I was able to win you some money as well, because it was a great week. Beaton Robinson as a captain, home run pick. He ended up having his best day of the season in terms of points, with 181 total yards and a rushing touchdown. He also scored 27.1 points on Sunday, the fifth most among running backs, which was doubled, obviously with being captain, to a whopping 54.2 points. Great choice there, Beaton Robinson. Josh Allen was great too, scoring 24.86 points, his biggest total of the season, and ended in the week as QB5. He was certainly worth the big chunk of the budget that he cost. He was brilliant. Amarian Hampton, another great choice. He had the best point scoring week of the season for him too. So he was again another top week. At the end of the week, RB7 with 27.5 points and amassing 165 total yards and a touchdown. And then again, for its exceptionally cheap value, Tyquan Thornton was a success too, to be honest with you, scoring a touchdown against the Ravens. It was a little bit disappointing to see Mahomes only target him twice, because Thornton was the second most targeted player in the Chiefs in the first three games. But again, good value getting a touchdown in there. Obviously, that's points straight away. A good 7-8 points there from Tyquan Thornton, which is brilliant, especially for his value. Again, one of the cheapest receivers on the game. Hunter Henry, on the other hand, bit of a letdown. The only one that was really a bit of a letdown, but 4 out of 5, a good hit rate, you could say. He was only targeted by Drake May twice, but he did score a touchdown again, so he wasn't terrible at the end of the week as tight end 10. So it wasn't all bad, but maybe there was better value out there at tight end. But yeah, again, I'm happy with that. The first, by far the best week for me identifying players for your lineups. And I'm confident about my picks for this week's Sunday Stars competition on Fantasy Gameday 2. But before I give you my 5 DFS Stars for week 5, I just wanted to remind you that you can get free entry if you sign up to Fantasy Gameday with the code FULL10. That's FULL10. New users can get a free game credit added to their account when they enter their first sign up on the app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Right. Here are 5 players that you need to have in your daily fantasy lineup on Fantasy Gameday this Sunday. As always, I'll start with my pick for a captain, which is the player in your lineup that gets double points. And after Beaton Robinson gave me a ton of success last week, I've gone for the same strategy for my captain, a true two-dimensional running back. So my captain for the week is Dolphins running back Devon Achane, who's going to have a lot more of the ball now that Tyreek Hill is done for the year. On top of being a dynamic running back, he's often used as a receiver in the Dolphins offense too. No player has combined for more snaps out wide and in the slot than Achane, and only Christian McCaffrey has more targets in the pass game than Achane as well. So that number is bound to go up with Tyreek Hill missing time 2, or maybe missing the season 2. So I believe Achane is, he really is worth the £8,000 price tag to be your captain this week. My callback for the week is Dak Prescott. There aren't many QBs that are playing better football in the league right now than Dak, and he's going to be against the Jets defense. That is a mess, to put it kindly. The Jets are the only defense in the league that hasn't created a turnover so far. Only Dallas and Miami have had more drives ending a score on defense too. So Dallas is going to score points. But with how bad Dallas' defense is as well, I think this will be a shootout, and I back Dak Prescott to come out on top in a shootout, because he's done it a couple of times this season already, or at least he's scored, been in shootouts loads and scored points loads this season already. And again, with the way I feel like Dallas can be in a shootout pretty much every week, and with the way Dak's playing, I think he could have another big day on Sunday. He's the 7th most expensive quarterback in the league this week, so not terrible at all. And I love his matchup compared to some of the more expensive options as well. So 7,400 for a good deal for Dak Prescott as the quarterback for your lineups this week. Okay, my running back pick for the week is Woody Marks of the Texans, who looks to be the feature back now in Houston. So I feel that 3,600 for him is an absolute steal. He had a big day last week with 22 touches for 119 total yards and 2 touchdowns ending the week as running back 6. He's going against the Ravens defense, which has had the most fantasy points in the league to running backs this year. Which again I think just makes him a bargain as the 22nd most expensive running back on Sunday. I feel like it's a good matchup for him. And again, he had a little bit of pop last week as well, so I'm really looking forward to watching Woody Marks this week. I think the best value receiver for the week is Garrett Wilson at 5,800, going up against that terrible Cowboys defense. Wilson has been so consistent despite being on an offense that is so up and down week to week. He's sitting as receiver 5 so far this season. So I just love this matchup for him this week. Matt Eberflus' defense is the worst in the league, especially against the pass, with Dallas giving up 35 points per game to receivers in fantasy this season. That's a whopping 8.3 points higher than the Giants in second. So I love this matchup for Garrett Wilson, who I think is a steal at 5,800, the 9th most expensive receiver option this Sunday on Fantasy Gameday. And then at tight end, I've gone for Darren Waller, who he made a splash in the first game for him since the 2023 season, scoring 2 touchdowns. It sounds like he's going to be a big factor in the passing game going forward for Miami, and Tua sounds really excited about having a big body target finally as well. So I think Waller is worth a punt this week at 2,600. Going up against the Panthers defense that has allowed the 2nd most receiving yards to tight ends so far this season. That wraps up my 5 picks for this week's Sunday Stars competition on Fantasy Gameday. My 5 DFS stars for the week are Devon Achane, Dak Prescott, Woody Marks, Garrett Wilson, and Darren Waller. Best of luck if you're playing along, and don't forget, new users can still sign up with the code FULL10 to get that £10.50 game entry for free. And just a reminder, please gamble responsibly, and only if you're in the UK and 18 or over. Alright, we'll get into predicting the rest of the games this week later on. But I thought it'd be fun to look at the 12 teams that have a win record right now before we do that, and talk about who might be a Super Bowl contender and which teams are more likely to be pretenders. There are 2 4-0 teams, the Bills and the Eagles, and then 9 3-1 teams, the Chargers, Steelers, Colts, and Jags in the AFC, and the Niners, Seahawks, Rams, Lions, and Bucks in the NFC. And then there's also the Packers with a winning record after the tie against Dallas last week at 2-1-1. We'll start in the AFC. We have to give Buffalo their flowers, the only unbeaten team in the conference. That's 4-0. They're right up there in terms of the odds to win the AFC in preseason with Baltimore. And 3-4 weeks, you have to say they're probably a big favourites for the AFC, right?
Yeah, I think going into the season, it was the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs, right? They're the big 3 that you're kind of looking at. Obviously, others can gate crash that, but they're the 3 that everyone was kind of in some order. They were everyone's favorite 3, I think. And the other 2 have kind of struggled a bit so far. They've had their bumps and bruises through the first 4 weeks already, whereas the Bills are absolutely cruising. Yeah, look, we'll see how the season pans out, but I think Buffalo have looked brilliant. Josh Allen's looked brilliant. James Cook has come in when needed. I think Josh Allen, that was against the Jets, I think in week 2, was his first game in, I don't even know how long, but it was a long time that he hadn't scored a single touchdown himself, either running it or throwing a passing touchdown. But James Cook put the offense on his back, right, and carried them through that. So it shows they can win in different ways. I think that Buffalo team is definitely looking like the class of the AFC so far. I think they've lived up to the billing so far.
And when you look at the Chiefs at 2-2, the Ravens are at 1-3. The teams that you thought could have potentially got in there, the Bengals, the Texans, they both had injuries and struggled as well. And the AFC looks to be going Buffalo's way. And I really do think, I said this before on the podcast, I think it might have been a couple of weeks ago. It feels like their time. Yeah. I think they're just destined to reach the Super Bowl at least, and maybe win it. But they're like in Super Bowls, obviously losing those 4 in a row, and it just feels like their time. It does. I don't think they're losing in that stadium this year. I really don't. Obviously last year in that stadium before they move into the new one, they've got a really easy schedule as well. I think I'd put loads of money on them being the 1 seed, assuming Josh Allen stays healthy, of course, and that's the thing. As long as Josh Allen does stay healthy, I think this team will be the one seed in the AFC with the way it's going. And then you look at the injuries that some of the contenders have had. Obviously, Lamar Jackson's injured now, although it's not as serious as Joe Burrow's injury, but he's injured, and obviously banged up teams across the AFC as well. And the Bills are looking pretty good. Their offensive line stayed healthy for 2 seasons now, which is crazy so far. I think they have the best roster in the AFC at the moment as well, because of everyone's healthy, which is crazy because I'm not exactly sold in the secondary. They can be beaten in that way. But this is probably my team for the Super Bowl in the AFC. 3-4 weeks, because they're clearly favourites for the conference, and they are better than the 4-3-1 teams. The Chargers, Steelers, Colts, and the Jags. Of those teams, which are you sort of most confident about as Super Bowl contenders?
I mean, it's got to be the Chargers in my mind. I think I would have put them kind of alongside Buffalo as being the two kind of runaway teams so far. And then they lost to New York on Sunday, which I don't think anyone really expected. So, look, I think Jim Harbaugh's a great coach, one of the best coaches, certainly of his generation, of these last kind of 20 years or so. And coming back in the NFL, you saw how he turned around the Chargers last season, like getting them to the playoffs. Yeah, they didn't win in the playoffs, but getting that team kind of an extra, I don't know what it was, 4 or 5 wins in the regular season kind of shows the turnaround that he did. And I think they're going to do that again. And Justin Herbert looks like he's taken that step, right, into becoming, the player that everyone kind of saw that he had. He had the tools to be this amazing player. Now I think he is that amazing player. And you see guys like Quentin Johnson as well now. Quentin Johnson kind of coming through. Look, I think the Chargers are going to be certainly from those 4 teams. I think they're going to be the contenders. I think, like you go through that team. I mean, Pittsburgh. Look, I don't know how they're 3-1. They should pay. My Patriots should have beaten them. That was a tough game to watch. The Jets should have beaten them in week 1. The Colts are fun, and I think they have a really good roster. I think I would like to see a bit more as the season kind of plays out in terms of them being real contenders. But certainly really promising stuff to see so far. And the Jags, again, I think I would lump them with kind of Steelers. They've won some tight games against some, let's say, differing opposition. So again, but you can only beat what's in front of you. So it's fair enough to these teams. But I think the Chargers, out of that crop of 4 teams, are my kind of most likely to meet Buffalo in that AFC title game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this Chargers defense is so good. Obviously, we just said it's number 2 to Minnesota in terms of EPA. It was up really good last season as well. Yeah, it is one of the best defenses in the league. And then, like you said, we're starting to see great things from Quentin Johnson. Which is helping Justin Herbert out, especially with the state of his offensive line at the moment. Obviously, Rashawn Slater's out for the year, and it was a huge concern seeing Joe Alt go down at the weekend as well. But that sounds like they got away with that one there. It's only going to be a couple games or so maybe. So that they have got away with one there. But if he does go down, for a longer a longer portion of games, I think they could be a little bit screwed.
Well, it showed how much it affected their performance as well. He went down and they lose to the Giants.
Absolutely.
It shows how much I mean, Jim Harbaugh has a great system. He runs the ball. Amari and Hampton look better as well. So
also, Mekhi Becton's out of a concussion at the minute as well. So,
exactly.
So obviously you're losing. You've probably 3 best offensive linemen, and then you're like, that's the thing. But no, and Amari and Hampton had an amazing game last week, as you were saying as well. Like, absolutely, he's been brilliant, and and everything they drafted him to be in the first round as well. And obviously now that Najee Harris is done his Achilles, he'll get the football a lot more than they would have thought. So certainly on him. But I think they're the most likely. I agree with you. I think Pittsburgh are frisky. I think Aaron Rodgers is doing everything that's needed of him,
sure.
And I would say that I feel they could, maybe not a Super Bowl, but I certainly think they can win a playoff game, which they haven't done. They've lost the last 6 or 7 straight, I think. I think they could win a playoff game this year because that defense has finally kicked into gear. It's taken 3-4 weeks, but that defense the last 2 weeks has been really, really good. And the amount of pressure it's produced the last 2 weeks compared to before is crazy. And so they can just stop the run a little bit better. I think this defense could do well. And then Rodgers to DK Metcalf is that if they can, that they've had to be a bit creative about it. It's been a lot of short passing game to DK Metcalf, but then once you give DK Metcalf the ball, what he can do with the ball in his hands, we saw that on the game on Sunday, is just remarkable. So I think Pittsburgh are above the Colts and the Jags in my opinion. I do love bits about both teams. Don't get me wrong. I think the Colts trench play is brilliant. Both sides of the ball, brilliant. It is like it's back to where it was a few years ago, and that's when they've lost a couple of starters in the offensive line as well, and it's still playing really, really well compared. Obviously, when I thought it would when they lost a couple of guys going into free agency this year, and then Lou Anarumo's defense has been pretty good for what the talent he has in that defense as well. But my worry there is, if Jonathan Taylor gets injured or something, they're screwed. And obviously, he's not got the best injury history because this team sort of runs through Jonathan Taylor. And I like Daniel Jones, but I feel like his job would be a lot harder, and he probably will pay a little bit worse without Jonathan Taylor in that lineup. But then I think I'll put the Jags behind the Colts because their defense is great. Again, Anthony Campanelli's defense is one of the stories of the season. Number 2 in EPA play behind Minnesota. So up there. And then, not too bad behind the Chargers and Minnesota against the pass. And again, the amount of turnovers they've produced is just crazy this season. But this offense just isn't working. If you had told me that the best thing about the Jags offense before this season would be Travis Etienne and their offensive line, the two worst things from last season, I would have thought you were crazy. But Trevor Lawrence, just at this point, we need to start thinking about it because talking about Trevor Lawrence because this is his 4th play caller, I think, and we're still seeing him, really, really crumble under pressure, and that's where the fact that his offensive line has been really good this year, still not really getting it done, and then something's up with Brian Thomas Jr. at the minute. He looks afraid to get hit, and he's had a couple of drops, and then Travis Hunter's been all right on both sides of the ball, but he's just been a bit underwhelming. He's just been average. Like I think if you're drafting a guy 2nd overall, you want him to be really good at. He just looks like he's a bit average at everything, which is good. But you don't want 2 average players. You want a superstar in one position. I'd rather have a superstar in one position than 2 average players. I think that's the thing there. So we'll see what happens there. But so what they've done to get when they've not really been that remarkable, it is crazy. But I think I'm a little bit. I'm not that high on the Jags compared to many people because they're not wowing me. The defense is wowing me, or this offense just isn't wowing me, and that's the thing that they were really excited about this offense. Maybe we'll see. But he's the only quarterback in the league, Trevor Lawrence, that's had more than 2 games not to have a single big time throw, and that's in 4 games. Whilst he's had 7 turnover-worthy plays. So, not the best ratio there. So we'll see. But again, the Jags are playing well. I think Liam Cohen's coached well. I just think the offense isn't playing for him, and I think the defense under Campanelli has been really good as well. So we'll see what happens there. But a little bit lower on the Jags than the other 3. Right, the NFC now. Like the Bills, there's only one team we can start with in the NFC, and that's the Eagles. Should they win at home to Denver on Sunday, they will become the first team since 2009. The Colts in 2009 begin the season 5-0 3 times in a 4-year span, which is just crazy. Nick Sirianni can also become the second coach ever to begin 5-0 in 3 of his first 5 seasons, which is crazy because they haven't even been that convincing. Philadelphia, they could easily be 1-3 right now, if we're being honest. But they're 4-0. Good teams find a way to win. They're 4-0 in 1-score games. And 3 of those 4 wins are against playoff teams from last year as well. So that they know how to win games. They've been good. Don't get me wrong, but this offense is kind of struggling compared to previous years. But when they don't just know how to get over the line, it's kind of hard not to call them the NFC favourites still, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they kind of remind me. It might sound ridiculous to make the Premier League parallel, but they kind of remind me of like almost Arsenal at the moment, right? In terms of like they're just winning games, but like by like 1 goal, and like the offense might be kind of struggling a little bit, but like they'll grind out the way to get it done. They're not going for this. It might be annoying AJ Brown as we saw on the weekend, but they're not going for these crazy, deep plays, these flashy kind of, you want to say Mahomesian plays, from back in the day. We're not seeing those kind of. That's not how Jalen Hurts and this offense really thrives. They lean on Saquon. They move the chains. They grind the opposition defense down. They use the tush push when necessary, and they just score and win, and they win games. Like you said, it hasn't been convincing, but like they've beaten very good teams. Might not necessarily see that with the Chiefs record or something, but like the Chiefs are still the Chiefs, and they beat them. And there wasn't the most convincing win. I mean, I think if Travis Kelce catches that pass, I think the Chiefs win that game. rather than the pick going the other way that of course Philly went and scored on. So yeah, not convincing, but like you said, man, they're winning games and they know how to win games. And that's probably the most important ingredient in the NFL. It's not necessarily about being the most exciting. The most exciting. How often does the most exciting offense win the Super Bowl? Not that regularly is the answer. But it's. I think Philadelphia are. I think they're a very good team. I think it's difficult to say that they're not the best or the class of the NFL. When you look at that team, you look at that roster. They lost some guys in the summer, but like they're still across the board incredibly stacked. So I think Philadelphia, and they know how to win. They did it last season. Nick Sirianni, for all the kind of flack he maybe gets, has a very impressive record as head coach. And the guys on that team clearly believe in him and the culture that organization has. So I think, I think they're going to be difficult to stop. I think they're definitely kind of the front runners, like the Buffalo of the NFC so far, for sure.
Yeah. Although I feel like the challenges in the NFC are closer to Philadelphia than they are to Buffalo, I would say.
Yes. Oh, agree.
Yeah. There are 5 3-1 teams in the NFC. 4 of them actually play each other this week as well. So that's you've got some great games this week. The 49ers and Rams play tonight on Thursday Night Football, whilst the Seahawks and Bucks will play on Sunday. And obviously the injuries of the Niners, but they've played quite well. That's the thing there. But of those teams, 49ers and Rams, Seahawks and Bucks, which of those 4 are you most convinced by?
Let's see. It's funny. Like I think the start of the season, my Super Bowl pick for the NFC was the LA Rams. So I've been very encouraged from what we've seen so far. I think they're quite unlucky. If they don't get their field goal blocks, they beat the Eagles, right? So,
yeah.
Exactly. So and they nearly beat them in the playoffs last year. I think the Rams look very good. I think Puka Nacua is playing his way into being the best receiver in the NFL. Like in that conversation with Justin Jamar. And then you get like Matthew Stafford, man. I was saying to someone the other day, like I don't know if he's underrated because everyone does rate him, but man, he is so good. I think through like 4 weeks, his highlight package of like the throws he's making just on a weekly basis are unbelievable. Like it's a full season's worth of great throws that he's done through 4 weeks. He's still going at the age that he's at. Still truly an elite quarterback. Sean McVay is an unbelievable play caller, arguably the best in the league again. And then that defense is looking so good. Jared Verse is an absolute game wrecker. And so I think the Rams look really good. I think from those teams, I'm sticking with my pick for the Rams really so far. I think they look really good. But I really like the Buccaneers as well. I think they were my sneaky team to go deep as well. Maybe we'll get Bucks Rams NFC title game. That'll be pretty fun. But I think
that'll be fun.
Oh man, I just love Baker. Like it was, I think it was the Texans game a couple of weeks ago. He when Nick Chubb scored that late rushing touchdown, it was so funny because it was almost like the whole NFL world kind of just went, yeah, nice. Now Baker's gonna go score and win. Like you knew that even though the Texans just scored, that the Bucks were just still gonna win the game because that offense they've got weapons across the board. And they're really, I feel like
those weapons have been injured as well. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris Godwin's just coming back. Mike Evans is injured. They've not had all. Jerry McMillan has been out with this neck injury. They've not had all 4 of them at all. They could. That's the crazy thing, isn't it? Like
for sure. And Ibuka's playing so well. The rookie, he's been unbelievable so far. I mean, even guys like Sterling Shepard, who you kind of forget are still in the league sometimes, and then he'll just come up and he'll just put 100 yards out of nowhere or 80 yards out of nowhere and make a big play.
Obviously, him and Baker went to Oklahoma together, and you're starting to see that connection now because he's the only one that's managed to get anything out of Sterling Shepard since he was drafted by the Giants. Really, all he needed was his college quarterback, and now he's looking quite good. Crazy. Anyway, that was going to say I agree with you. I think the Rams, again, they've probably got a top 5 offense, top 5 defense in the NFL, and then that will get you up there and thereabouts in the playoffs. Stafford, I think, again, I agree with you. I think he's got to be in the MVP conversation through 4 weeks, if I'm being honest. Him, Dak Prescott, they're probably the 2 for me that have played the best at the quarterback position. Josh Allen as well, maybe. And their defense is just stunning too. I really like Tampa, like you. I just think that's again solid across the board. Like the Rams are great at both things. Well coached, like the Rams too. I think Todd Bowles is an amazing coach.
For sure.
And it's crazy because last year going into the season, he was like in the top sort of 6-7 in the odds to be fired, and I was like, that's not happening. I can tell you now. And obviously they're going, go get to the playoffs again. And I think they are favourites for the division again this year.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy. And again, like Stafford, Baker's been a sort of top 5 quarterback 3-4 weeks as well. And then the Niners and Seahawks are interesting because I like what I've seen from both teams, especially both defenses. The Niners defense is much improved from last year,
For sure.
and then Seattle's defense has been really, really good. The Niners should be a contender, but they've had some like just rotten injury luck. Niners. We should be talking about the Niners with the Rams and Eagles, but especially from what we've seen for 3 weeks. But then they probably rushed Brock Purdy back. He's out on tonight. They rushed Ricky Pearsall back. He's out tonight. They rushed Jawan Jennings back. He's out tonight. And they and they lost the game as well. It was like and but when they got a good record against the Rams as well, you would thought you just save them for that game rather than play them against the Jags. So they have that, and then obviously George Kittle's not back until next week. And then they've lost Nick Bosa for the season. It's just I do worry about that. If they have 1 or 2 more injuries, I think they'll be a playoff team, especially the fact that they've won games in division and stuff this year already. I do think they'll be a playoff team, but I don't. If they lose now a couple more guys, I think the Niners are kind of screwed. And then with Seattle, they're relying heavily on their offensive line being healthy because they've been great so far. I think they can win a playoff game potentially with the way Sam Darnold's been playing. But I'm holding off on calling them a contender just because if Charles Cross goes down, they're screwed. And again, he's not had the best injury history. It's like the run game's been really good. I think Clint Kubiak's done a great job. It's very similar to the start they had with New Orleans, and then it all crumbled when they had a couple of injuries. I'm just praying Seattle don't get injured because I'm a little bit worried then. If we're still talking about Seattle in 5-6 weeks time the same way again, maybe they could be. I just I think I like Sam Darnold, but I wouldn't put him in the same conversation as the other quarterbacks. I think in the end in the playoffs that probably matters. But they've been pretty good. And then there's Green Bay. 2-1-1. Since you last came on the podcast, obviously they've traded for Micah Parsons and a couple of tough results recently. But I'm assuming you still see them as contenders too.
Yeah, I think it's tough not to say that Green Bay are contenders. They had that bit of a weird game in Cleveland that they almost won anyway. Look, I think teams have these kind of games sometimes where they just kind of don't show up. It was still early in the season. So that was a weird one. And then the Dallas game, I mean, that was just an exceptional game. I don't, again, sometimes that just happens where you go into a shootout kind of thing with 2. I'd be a little bit concerned about the Green Bay defense, especially the secondary, like kind of putting up or allowing Dallas to kind of put up those numbers. But sometimes those games happen. It's the NFL. Sometimes you just get these insane kind of shootout, one-off kind of games. We'll see how Green Bay go, but I would certainly be more inclined to put them in the kind of the contender bubble than someone like Seattle, who I think like you, we're on the same page with Seattle. I think they're a really good team, who should definitely be going for the in that playoff kind of conversation come the end of the season. And they can win a playoff game, but I think after Sam Darnold last season, especially with that Vikings, going 14 wins, whatever it was, and then kind of getting blown out by the Rams or like dominated by the Rams really in that game. I think, it's tough to kind of say that the Seahawks are a contender based on that, but they look really good, and they're similar to the Bucs in the sense that they have built really well through the draft and through the little additions that they've sprinkled in around the roster. I think they've got a really, really strong roster across the board. And we've seen that with their record this season. 3-1 is nothing to step out. And they lost to the 49ers first week, right? That's their only loss. So Seattle look really good. I think, I like them potentially coming out the NFC West as well, to be honest. I think that that'll be a really good team to deal with. And coming back to Green Bay, I don't see any reason why you can't really say that Green Bay, with the names they have and the way they played in those other games as well in their wins, I think they look really strong. Maybe just growing into the season a little bit, but I think they're going to be in that conversation. I think like you said, I think 5 or 6 weeks down the line we'll see, but I think Green Bay still right now deserve to be in that bubble.
Yeah, the end of the season is their domain. I think Matt LaFleur's got that amazing record in December.
Yeah.
It took like 3 or 4 years before he lost a game in December as a head coach. So So yeah, if we're still talking about the Packers in December, they're probably gonna be there or thereabouts.
Exactly.
So yeah, we'll see what happens there, but we're still 2 months away. All right, let's get into picking the Week 5 games against the spread. Well, really weird slate this week. Obviously, the first slate of teams on bye, the 4 teams on the bye: Pittsburgh, the Packers, the Bears, and the Falcons. So less games this week. You got, which is kind of nice when you're watching Red Zone because there's less going on. You can actually watch the games more. So it's not necessarily a bad thing having less games. We'll start on Thursday Night Football. The Niners head to LA, obviously short journey. The Rams are 8.5-point favorites in this game purely because of the injuries that the Niners have. As I mentioned, no Purdy, no Jennings, no Pearsall. It was 6.5 earlier in the week. It's now 8.5, so the Rams have gone up by 2 points. And you can see why when the Niners are that injured and the Rams are that good. I mean, 8.5 is a huge spread, but what do you think about this one?
Yeah, 8.5 is a huge spread. It's especially like the 49ers have a great record, or Shanahan, should I say, has a good record against Sean McVay. So yeah, I am surprised by that, but there is a lot of injuries. I think the Rams, even when healthy, I think the Rams would be slightly favored. 8.5. Do I think they'll beat that? Let's go. Yeah, I think they'll cover that. I'm gonna lean into my Rams love that I've decided to go full hard on for 2025.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's the pick. I think maybe it'll be a good game. Maybe the 49ers get off to a strong start, but I think the Rams can pull away towards the end.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Niners here, just purely because it's a Thursday night game and you don't really tend to see like many scores in a Thursday night game. True. So that's why I'm going to go for it. I think the Rams will win the game, but whether it's by 9, I'm not so sure. So yeah, I'm going to go for the Niners, and I think we'll see how Mac Jones looks throwing to the 3 receivers: Demarcus Robinson, Sky Moore, and who's the other one? Another one who's played for the Chiefs. Can't remember his name. Who is it?
Is it Valdes-Scantling?
Yes, yeah, Marcus Valdes-Scantling. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, because I saw a tweet. It was like, I feel like I've seen Patrick Mahomes phrase that he's got 3 guys and win a Super Bowl. It was like, 2 separate Super Bowls thrown to those 2 guys, but yeah, those 3 guys. But no, absolutely. It's Mac Jones though, not Patrick Mahomes. I don't think the Niners will win the game, but I think they'll come close. I'm gonna go for the Niners there. Okay, we'll go on to the 6 p.m. slate now. We'll start in Baltimore. They host the Texans. This game is on Sky Sports Football. It's also available on DAZN as well because it's the extra Sky game in the 6 p.m. Slate. This was an interesting one because it doesn't sound like Lamar Jackson's gonna be ready to go. He's not been ruled out fully yet though, but with a hamstring injury, you don't really want to play a player. He did, on a hamstring injury, didn't practice yesterday. I haven't heard about today's practice yet. But yeah, the Texans are 1.5-point favorites going into Baltimore because of that. Again, the bookie's not expecting Lamar Jackson to play. Texans have been an interesting one, but their defense played well. The offense came alive last week. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I think it's hard to call at this stage. I think it'd be interesting to see. It all depends on Lamar, right? That's the key, like you said. I think if Lamar's playing, I think Baltimore win that pretty handily, to be honest. I think Texans have looked really poor. Been one of the most disappointing teams, I think, so far of the season. I mean, they've had some injuries themselves. Now, offensive line doesn't look good. I think Laramie Tunsil, that trade is getting weirder as it goes. But yeah, I think, who do I go with there? 1.5 points, Houston, Baltimore. I think if Lamar's not playing, I'm gonna go Houston. I think Houston can take that game. Do you know who the Ravens' backup quarterback is?
Cooper Rush.
Wow, what a name! There we go. He's back. Yeah, I'll go Houston. I think he's a very different quarterback style, right, to Lamar. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how that offense kind of functions. Yeah, I think if Lamar's not playing, I'll go Texans to cover.
Yeah, he's the first one we've had Ravens backup that's not really like a running quarterback. Obviously, we've had Josh Johnson, we've had Tyler Huntley.
Yeah.
They've had other guys as well. RG3 was there for a little bit, and then they got Cooper Rush. It's very interesting stuff. I mean, he can move, so he's not a statue in the pocket. He's he can move. But he's not quite known for his rushing ability. You could say. I think it's an interesting one. I'm going to go for Houston. I just thought their defensive line's unbelievable. The Ravens' offensive line isn't great, and Lamar Jackson can probably handle that. I don't think Cooper Rush can handle that. Yeah. So I'm gonna go for the Texans too. And again, 1.5 points is just a pick 'em. So literally just who you think's gonna win the game. Exactly. Same with this one as well. 1.5 points. The Dolphins go to Carolina. The Dolphins are favourites going to Carolina. Obviously, got their first win last week, and Carolina got their first win 2 weeks ago, then looked terrible against the Patriots last week, so we really don't know what they're gonna be. I'll go for the Dolphins here. I just feel like they've got into a bit of a rhythm on offense the last couple of weeks. The Bills game, they were really good, and then the added bit of Darren Waller on Monday night made them look. Tua's been waiting for ages for a big target because all their receivers have been really small, and that really helped the Dolphins and their run game as well. They've found a run game in the last couple of weeks as well, which is good, obviously, because they're missing Tyreek Hill for the rest of the year because of that horrific knee injury. Again, I don't think it'll be too much of an issue without Tyreek Hill, judging by how the offense looked in the last couple of weeks anyway. The big time for Jalen Waddle to step up because obviously he's been paid that huge contract. So we'll see what we'll get there. But I'll go for the Dolphins. Just thought they're the better team against Carolina, and they seem like they found a groove. And this team are playing for Mike McDaniel as well, which we didn't think they would be in the first couple of weeks. Yeah,
for sure. I think I'm going to go the same. I think Miami to beat Carolina. I almost think like Tyreek. I mean, this is crazy because Tyreek is obviously such a good player, but I've almost felt like at times this season, Tua has been really trying to force the ball to him. I think a lot of his picks have come on these crazy deep throw attempts that just aren't really there. And so I wonder if you just take that out the offense entirely, as they've been forced to do. Maybe Tua just plays a bit cleaner, which is what Mike McDaniel will want really in that offense, which is so nicely kind of tied together. We got Achan and Ollie Gordon looking good coming out the backfield. So I like Miami to kind of, again, like you said, find their feet, get some more momentum going. Carolina could give them a game, really could. Like you said, absolutely no idea. They looked really good against the Falcons, and then the Patriots, steamrolled them. So yeah, I think Miami's certainly the safe pick, or the wise pick, I'd say here. Okay, the next couple are interesting. The Colts host the Raiders. The Colts are 7.5 point favorites at home. We never thought we'd be saying that going into the season. But then again, the Raiders have been struggling, especially on offense. Well, in passing offense anyway. We saw a little bit of a breakout game from Ashton Jeanty last week. No. Yeah, Colts 7.5 points. It's huge, but then the Colts are just so solid. You can kind of see it, can't you? Yeah, you can. They've looked really good. They're probably an Adonai Mitchell not being a full touchdown away from being the Rams, right? So I think the Colts, and being 4-0, which is kind of crazy going season, Indiana Jones. So yeah, I think 7.5 favorites probably fair, to be honest, given how the Raiders have kind of looked coming out the gates, and how the Colts played. I think the Colts will win the game. I don't know if it'll be as convincing as that. I don't know if they'll cover, but I think they will win the game. I think the Raiders will play them closer. I think the Raiders are due a better performance on offense. Geno Smith's due a better performance on offense. He's really struggled. He's actually, I really thought the trade to him was pretty solid for the Raiders. I think Geno Smith's a good quarterback, but he's really struggled these first 4 weeks. So I'll take the Colts, but maybe they don't cover the spread. I'm going to go for the Colts to cover the spread because the Raiders lost Colton Miller. He was their only good offensive lineman. So I'm going to go for the Colts here just because they're going to kill Geno. And that offensive line, like, they're probably one of the offensive lines that can deal with Max Crosby. So if you put it that way, I just feel like the Colts maybe, I think they're probably going to do well at both trenches again, as they have done in most games. And the Raiders without their best offensive lineman really worries me. So I'm going to go for the Colts to cover that 7.5 point spread here. Okay, this is a game that we all talked about before the season as saying this is the only game that you could
probably see the Saints favoured in. And it's here. Yeah, they are favoured. They're favoured by 2.5 points against the Giants at home. Obviously, Jackson Dart's second start. Spencer Rattler's looked pretty good for the Saints. He's not really been the issue. The issue has been their defense, which is an interesting one. But they are favourites against the Giants, who looked pretty good against the Chargers last week. Which way are you going here?
Yeah, tough one. I think you're right, man. The Spencer Rattler has looked good for the Saints. So I want to pick the Saints because that would be fun, but I'm gonna have to pick the Giants. I think the Giants, that win last week is really, I think putting Jackson Dart in really re-energized the whole kind of organization, right? Like I think everyone kind of, you get a new face. You're behind the rookie that you've spent kind of capital on, certainly in the draft. So yeah, and you know, they got Scatterbo coming out of the backfield as well. You got that defensive line is fierce when they're firing. So I think it could be as well as he's played so far. I think it could be a long day for Spencer Rattler, even at home. So I think the Giants will take that one. I think 2.5 is pretty fair. I think it could be close. So I'll go Giants to cover.
Yeah, I'm going to go Giants too. I just felt this is probably the best defense the Saints have played. So I feel like it will be a bit of a struggle there. And then this is the offensive lines look better than a lot of people thought it would. Saints. This is the big test going up against this defensive line, which has got so many first round picks on it and stuff. So I'm going to go for the Giants. But if the Saints play well in this game, then I think people might feel a little bit different about them going into to the next couple weeks of the season. Right. On to the game that's on Channel 5 this week, so it's free to air in the UK. It sees the Jets host the Cowboys. The Cowboys are 2.5 point favourites going to MetLife Stadium. With the way their offense looked the other night, and it's looked throughout the season, you can see why, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Dallas offenses look fantastic. I think the defense is the issue, right?
Yeah. Worse than the NFL.
Yeah. So there you go. I think this will be a really interesting game. I think the Jets just need to not get behind early. I think if they strike first, I think we'll get a really good game. I think that running game, because they lean on the run so heavily, I think if they fall behind, it's difficult to then kind of catch up. Which is
we
weird.
saw it on Sunday. We saw it on Monday night. They
had
a really long drive, fumbled at the 1 yard line, and then the Dolphins went up and went on their really long drive, scored, and then the Jets had like over 200 yards rushing and lost. How often do you see a team run for 200 yards and lose a game?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So if they can run the football, I agree with you. It's just whether you almost, if you win the toss, you almost want to start first, don't you? Really,
for sure. And I think you want to see, and I think Jets fans as well kind of want to see Justin Fields let it rip a little bit as well. Like he's got that deep ball in him, and I think Garrett Wilson's crying out for it. We've seen him, I think, through certainly 2 or 3 times this season, make some kind of crazy Randy Moss play on a defensive back. So I think it'll be fun. I think if the Jets strike first, we'll have a really good game on our hands. I think it could be really close. With that Dallas defense, I think the Jets have a chance to really get some momentum and some confidence on offense. But the Jets defense has also struggled. So yeah, this could go either way. I think Dallas have shown more on offense that I think I'd have to go the Cowboys for that one.
I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna go for the Jets.
Love it.
Yeah, I feel like that this is if the Jets can't get at this defense, this pass defense, which has been horrendous, that's a real worry because this should be a Garrett Wilson game. Really, the way this should be a Garrett Wilson game. And I just feel like their defense is better than the Cowboys defense. I think the Cowboys defense is just horrendous. And I feel they're probably they're the only team without a turnover so far. I feel like that might come in this game. And if they can get that turnover, they probably will win because this game's probably going to be a shootout. So if they can get that one turnover they needed all season, I think the Jets will do it. Home underdogs, I'll always pick anyway. If it's like a big spread, 2.5 is a bit different, obviously, because winning by even if it comes to the wire and Dallas win, the last second field goal, you'd like to think they're going to come within 2 points. So I'm going to go for the Jets.
Nice.
Screw it. Why not?
I like it.
And then the main game on Sky Sports this week sees the Eagles host the Broncos. The Eagles are 3.5 point favourites. Obviously, the only undefeated team in the NFL, but the Broncos, again, another tough team for Philadelphia, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. I think the Broncos, how many times have the Broncos been the sneaky good team that everyone picks, and then they've had like a slow start? I feel like that's what happened this year a little bit. Like they didn't look that good kind of first couple of weeks of season, but they looked. I mean, they decimated the Bengals on Monday Night Football. The Jay Browning's Bengals. I think that defense is just ridiculous. Like they mess up offenses at will. So I think that's going to be a really tough game for Philadelphia. I think they have enough firepower to get over the line. I think their offense has enough gears to overcome kind of Bo Nix's offense. Yeah, tough. I think I'll go Philadelphia. I think it could be close, to be fair. It's a field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil got. I think, yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to go Philadelphia as well. I think Bo Nix, man, the turnovers and like I'm really disappointed by what I've seen from Bo Nix. Again, he's statistically is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL this year. I'm really disappointed by what I've seen. It's not that I knew he wasn't like I knew he wasn't a Justin Herbert or anything like that. You know, I know he's not. He's got a low ceiling. Don't get me wrong, but maybe I always thought last year was probably what we would always get from Bo Nix. Although that's the way he played. He was amazing last year. He's been okay, but he's just it's just there are a few mistakes that weren't really there last year, and that really has cost Denver in a couple of games. You're looking at it. And again, going up against a Philadelphia defense that has started to get those turnovers now, that is a little bit of a worry for me. So I'm going to go for Philadelphia, but I'm rooting for Denver because I do really like this team, but I just think Philadelphia are too good here. Right, on to the 9 p.m. slate here. There's 4 games, so a slightly bigger evening slate, which is lovely because sometimes when you've got like 2 or 3 games, it's a bit dull. We've got 4 this week, 3 of them on UK telly as well, which is awesome. We'll start the one that's not on UK telly, is only on DAZN. That's the Cardinals hosting the Titans. The Cardinals are 7.5 point favourites here, and again, the Titans are the worst team in the NFL. That's hardly a surprise. And Arizona are in need of a win after the way they've lost a couple ones at the buzzer the last couple of weeks, both in division as well to the Niners and the Seahawks. So Arizona in need of a win. Huge spread. Do you think they'll cover?
Yeah, I think they'll cover. I think they'll definitely win the game. I think they'll probably cover as well. To be honest, I think the thing that's really worried me about the Titans, like you look at their team, like I don't think they have that bad a roster. It's not as bad as it has necessarily played. The coaching has been so poor. Like it's been some of the worst coach I've honestly ever seen through first like 4 weeks of the season. They're giving Cam Ward absolutely no chance. He's showing flashes that he could be the guy, but it is unbelievable how badly they're coached. So yeah, I like Arizona. I think Arizona were quite lucky, to be honest. I mean, they were completely played off the park really by Seattle, and then they still nearly came back and won that game. So Cardinals definitely have some fight in them. I think they win. I think they cover.
Yeah, I agree with you. That Thursday night football gave me a lot of confidence for the Cardinals actually, even though they lost, because they struggled in the fourth quarter in 3 games. The first 3 games they almost blew a lead to the Saints, and then they held on against the Panthers and the they held on to the Panthers as well, and then obviously got pipped by the Niners because they couldn't get that third down conversion after the safety. And I seen them come back and compete with Seattle after they started really poorly. Gave me a lot of confidence. Also had it's a long week as well. Obviously playing Thursday night last week as well, so I'm gonna go for them to cover. And a big game. Like Marvin Harrison, it's one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. Like you need to have a game here, otherwise questions are going to keep being asked about the connection between the two, the quarterback and the receiver, and especially after Kyler in his press conference the other day said, "I'd hope to be here when the new facility is built in 2028, the new training facility." So yeah, again, sounds like they're not exactly sold on, and Kyler doesn't think this is a big year for Kyler Murray. I said it's in the podcast, the preview podcast of the NFC West one. Is a big year for him. Again, go 3-2. They're going to be thereabouts, and if they weren't in the division they're in, they probably would fancy themselves to the playoffs. The problem is they've got to beat the teams in division, and they've lost a couple games as well. So Arizona really need to start winning games. So I'm going to go for them to cover this spread. We'll stick in the NFC West. We'll go over to Seattle. They host the Bucks. This one is going to be a really cool one because both teams are wearing throwback uniforms. The Seahawks going in their blue throwbacks, the Bucks in their white creamsicle ones that they wore a couple of weeks ago. This is the main game on Sky Sports this week. The Seahawks are favored by 3.5 points. So I don't know about you. This game is one of the ones I'm most excited for this week.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, kind of going into it, they're two of the 3-1 NFC teams kind of playing each other. So I think this is going to be a real good one. It's one of those ones between, it's between two teams that we think are like could be sneaky contenders, right? Like Buccaneers obviously had these kind of crazy finishes and explosive finishes, and Seattle have just been kind of ticking away and just getting some nice wins under their belt. Yeah, look, two teams with a really good record, two exciting teams that I guess kind of hipster picks for the season. I think, yeah, it'll be a really fun game. Two quarterbacks who were on the Panthers a couple of years ago, right? So two guys who have refound their form in new places around the NFL. And two teams that are kind of almost embodied by these quarterbacks. So I think it's gonna be really fun seeing them kind of go head to head in this showdown. 3.5, I think, is pretty fair. I think it's gonna be a really close game. I will keep riding with my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll pick them. I don't know how close it's going to be. I think it'll be very close, but I'll go with the Bucks to win the game.
Jameis is the perfect quarterback for the situation as well. For those receivers, Jameis is he's the perfect guy.
For sure.
Again, I'm so baffled by it. I think obviously they might have, because Browning almost got them to the playoffs a couple of years ago. Obviously when Burrow went out late in the year, they were out in 8 and 9. They were close. So I thought, we're quite confident we can get to sort of 6, 7, 8 wins, and then when Burrow comes back in December, go and win a couple and sneak in. But yeah, no, I think if they lose this game, especially again, the back down, losing record, they do need to have a sort of talk about that behind the scenes because I just if they can get, I think Jameis can win them a couple of games and get them there or thereabouts. For when Burrow comes back, they can then go and meet the playoffs. And I think if they're in the playoffs, they can beat anyone.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. So I just thought they're wasting a season really. But it also seems that the team are kind of out on Zach Taylor, which is that's another scenario there. It's like if they keep losing games, will he last? Will someone will the Burrow have a new head coach next year? Which a lot of people don't raise Zach Taylor, so that's an interesting thing to watch as well. And then the final game on the late slate sees the Chargers host the Commanders. Again, this one's a great game because Jaden Daniels is back. And the Chargers are 2.5 point favourites. This one is available to watch on free-to-air TV in the UK. It's on 5 Action. It's on DAZN, of course, and it's on Sky Sports Plus as well. So 3 ways to watch it in the UK this week. Chargers 2.5 point favourites. Again, it's kind of almost a pick 'em at this point. Two pretty decent teams, two pretty decent quarterbacks. This one's gonna be close, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully we'll see the Commanders kind of refine their groove a little bit. I think they've struggled so far this season, even with Jaden Daniels, to be honest. So it'd be nice to kind of for them to get their guy back under center. Try and give that offense a much needed boost. It's a tough time to get him back though, playing the Chargers on the road, especially Chargers who have just lost to the Giants, and so will want to be bouncing back themselves. I like the Chargers for that game, to be honest. I think they'll want to get back on track. I think after losing a game that really they would have, any team in the NFL obviously thinks that it's going to be a hard game on Sunday, but and a battle to win. But I think maybe in the back of their mind they might have been thinking they should be beating the Giants, right? Certainly if they want to get to where they want to go with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. I think. I like the Chargers for this game. I think the Commanders will be up for it, and they'll be fired up because of Jaden Daniels returning. I'm not sure. Even in week 1, I'm not sure Jaden Daniels kind of played. He hasn't refound his form that we saw last season. So I don't know if we're getting a classic second year kind of slump or what. I mean, obviously it's still so early in the season to say that, and obviously he got injured in week 2. But yeah, long story short, I think I'll go Chargers.
This one's the toughest one of the week for me. I really do think so.
It is a tough one.
Oh, I'm gonna join you. I'm gonna go Chargers. I feel like they're probably just a better team overall. It does worry me the fact that Joe will miss this game. Obviously,
Yeah,
I feel
for
like,
sure.
or maybe Von Miller could have a game. You never know. We'll see what happens. And again, it's a big game for the Commanders pass rush to see where they're at. Obviously, after losing Dante Fowler last year and replacing them with the guys they have. So fascinating one for me. I'm gonna go for the Chargers. Just for the purely the better team. I think they're both good coach teams. Gonna go home advantage here, although not that they have any home advantage. To go East Coast teams to West Coast as well is tough. So I'm gonna go for the Chargers to do that. And then Sunday Night Football. This should be a fun one. There was the third game with the new Nike rivalries uniforms after we saw the Cardinals in theirs and the Dolphins in theirs on Monday night. The Bills will wear theirs, their sort of white out kind of white and silver uniforms against the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. Stephon Diggs has returned to Buffalo, which is a really interesting storyline there that I kind of forgot about. The Bills are 8.5-point favourites here. The Patriots are the only team, I think, in the last 15 games to have beaten the Bills in Buffalo in the AFC East. So they've had a sort of chokehold on this division the whole time, the Bills, and it looks to be the case again. Patriots are up and down, aren't they? Really? So yeah, tough one. I'll let you pick first. Obviously, they're your team. 8.5 points is a big spread, isn't it?
8.5 points is a big spread. Oh man, it could go either way. I feel like the Patriots are they are hot and cold, or at least they're still just finding their feet. I think just as a team. Look, I think Drake May's been really good so far.
Big game for him. He's played well last couple of weeks. Now, obviously, first primetime game, big game for him
for sure. So, I think let's go. I think it'll be close. Well, maybe not close, but like it'll be within the 8.5 points. I think.
Nice.
I think the Patriots will put up a fight. I think Mike Vrabel will have them fired up to play in prime time. Oh man, we just need to not fumble. They just need to not fumble the ball. The mistakes have been killing them for sure. But I think the team has shown a lot of promise. I think like maybe some of the expectations going into the season were a bit high for the overall roster. But look, Drake May looks really good. I think anyone who is a Patriots fan or anyone who follows the team will be thinking, this is good. What we're seeing from him is really exciting. Really cool to see how he performs in prime time. But I think Josh Allen and the Bills are kind of the AFC's buzzsaw this season, so I think it's gonna be difficult to beat them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for Buffalo to cover. I'll go. I just think Buffalo are really good. Ultimately, I think they're the best team in the AFC, probably the best team in the NFL for the past couple of weeks as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go for Buffalo to cover. But again, I'm not confident on that one because primetime games, division games, anything can happen.
For sure.
So we'll see what happens there. And then Monday Night Football, this is a fun one. The Jags, obviously 3-1 Jags, with all their turnovers on defense, they host the Chiefs, who had a big game last week after a sort of sloppy first couple weeks. This surprised me. The Chiefs are 3.5-point favourites going into Jacksonville, despite them being 3-1, which sort of just shows obviously everyone's confidence in the Chiefs to eventually get it right. How do you see this game?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I mean, the Chiefs, their offense certainly found their feet a little bit last week in Baltimore, but that Baltimore defense is obviously so banged up. It's not like a Ravens defense we're used to seeing. So, how much of that was the Ravens defense? How much of that was the Chiefs offense? Like, it's hard to pin that down. I think at the moment, I think the Chiefs will win this game. I think this will be a kind of game that will go down to like what we were saying earlier, like knowing how to win. Especially in a primetime game, and the Chiefs have that in abundance, right? So I think when it comes down to it, it might be close towards the end. It might be close entering the fourth quarter or something. But I think the Chiefs ultimately get it done. I mean, I always find it difficult to bet against Patrick Mahomes just in general. Until he gets fully, fully kind of outcast as the guy who's the best in the NFL or the king of the NFL. I find it difficult to bet against him, so I think I'll have to go Chiefs to cover. I think they'll have I'll have enough to get it done, despite their kind of spotty, I guess, start to the season.
I'm gonna join you. If this was anywhere else but Jacksonville, I probably would maybe go. If the Jags played in, if they had a home field advantage, I'd probably go. Oh, maybe, but they don't. They're one of the worst teams at home the last couple of seasons. They've won games the last couple of years, but they just haven't won games at home, which is a really interesting thing. I'm going to go for the Chiefs here. And again, with the crowds that they get in Jacksonville, I'm interested to see how many Chiefs fans turn up as well.
Sure.
That could be another factor. So I'm going to go for the Chiefs too. But again, I'm not confident on that one because obviously a 3.5 point away favourites is an interesting one. Right, well that's going to do it for today's episode. But I can't believe, again, I said earlier in the podcast, I can't believe week 5's already here. Like, it's crazy.
Nah.
The NFL is back in London, which is really cool. Again, if you're there on Sunday, come and say hello. Feel free to say hello. It should be a fantastic occasion at Spurs on Sunday. A huge thank you to you, Andrew, for coming on the podcast once again. It's always great to have you on the show. Do you want to let listeners know where they can find your work?
Yeah, absolutely. You can check out the Mirror US. They've got themirror.com is basically the space where I'll be kind of most of my NFL coverage will be, and then of course you can follow on Twitter or X. I kind of refuse to say X, but X at Andrew_Gamble. But yeah, man, thanks for having me back, and enjoy the London game.
Awesome, thank you very much. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please do leave us a quick rating on Spotify or podcasts because it really does help more NFL fans in the UK discover the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like the video and subscribe as well. And when you're subscribing, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our content as well. It might blow your mind, but over 90% of our viewers aren't subscribed, which is crazy. So if you enjoyed the show, tap the button. It really does make a difference to us because it helps us hit the algorithms, but also to you so you can come back more if you made it this far in the podcast. All right, I'll be back early next week to look ahead to week 6, look ahead to the second of the 3 London games as well. But until then, enjoy your Sunday, and I'll see you next time on the 14 Yards NFL podcast.